In this video, I'll be designing the UI and UX for my video game. This is an important part to the process. Without this, there is no way I'll be able to finish my video game. So wait, why is this step so important? As you've probably noticed, there hasn't been a lot of game development in this project so far. That's because I have no idea how to code. My plan is to give this project to a developer to build. I like to think of myself as an architect, and my job is to come up with the plans for a building. I design exactly what I want, and then someone builds it for me. Today's goal is to end up with a document I can give to a developer to build my game. There is 4 parts we need to complete this document: a sitemap, screen designs, a user flow, and the look and feel. This document is essentially a UI UX document. You may be asking yourself, what the hell is UI UX design? To explain it, well, it's me. And just to make things a little easier, I'll be referring to everything as UI. Alright, so what is UI? UI stands for user interface. It's basically the level above the game that you control, so anything from buttons to menus is UI. How you navigate around the game. If you've ever played Call of Duty, selecting your gun, that's all part of the UI. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by making the UI so I have a clear idea of the features, and I have a plan kind of going into the development. Hello, Future Joe here. I thought I'd just mention, usually in game design they make the UI and the UX after they make the core mechanics, but I'm doing it a little bit differently because I have to hand this project off to a developer. Okay, now back to present Joe. So yeah, let's just jump into it, let's do it. Cool, part 1, here we go. Sitemaps. So what are sitemaps? Well, this sitemap is a list of pages needed to make the game. Anything from customizing your character to the now playing screen to home, basically mapping out all of that information. I thought that if I could see all the screens in a tree diagram, it would help me figure out how much work I needed to do as well. It will also help the developer see how much work they need to estimate for, and they can kind of see how each screen connects so they don't have to think about it. If I go back to the building analogy, I'm basically creating the blueprint for the game. Or maybe a better way to explain it is the hallways. This shows how each room connects to one another. Okay, so here you go, the sitemap. I'm going to walk you through kind of my plan and what I was thinking with my sitemap. First, I'm going to have a home screen, and offshooting from that will be daily rewards. I hope that the daily rewards will help people come back to the game. It is another screen I will have to design, but it shouldn't be too hard. I can't speak to the development of it, but from my end, it's not too much work. And then I think I'm going to have a couple of screens offshooting from the home. First one will be start. I'll just list them out here. Start, shop, gear, map, scoreboard, and coins. I think I will have a system in this game where you can use your coins to buy stuff, and if you don't have enough coins to buy things, you can obviously pay to get more. I'm not going to make it a key feature of the game. The option will be there if you want to use them. Start, that'll just start the game, and then you'll get to be playing. The shop, like I said, you can buy stuff. Gear, this will be the cosmetic stuff, so this will be where the user can equip their items that they want, so change the look of the character. And then the map, since I'm thinking about building out the world of my game, I think this will be a nice add to show people's progress through the game. Next is a scoreboard. It's pretty standard to have these in iPhone games these days. I know that there's an API you can use from Apple just to input the amounts, so that should be pretty easy to add from a development point of view. Pretty much on every screen there'll be a option to buy a coin, but this just means there'll be an icon up the top. It doesn't mean that it's just going to be prompting you all the time to buy coins. So if you see coins, it just means that it's an icon staying current throughout the whole game. Pretty standard throughout the industry, you see it a lot. Let's just go to start first, and we'll go through that flow. So if you follow this line, you can see where it leads. Sweet, so we have the now playing screen. This is basically just the game running. Other buttons that'll be on screen or other actions will have use power-ups and pause. Then the only other thing to have after the now playing screen is the death screen, and that'll give you a couple options. You can double your coins, maybe a revive, maybe play again, and then home. You know, I was thinking about this death screen a lot, and I was thinking about what I needed to have on that screen. Having a quick way to go home and having a quick way to play again, they're essential. and then the double points and revive might be things I add later on. For the pause screen, obviously you have unpause, settings, sound up, sound down, and then quit to the home screen. So that'll just lead you back. Okay, the shop's next. Let's just go through that one really quick. We follow the line. And then I'm thinking of having 2 ways to get goods in the game. You can obviously buy the item with coins. You can purchase it, or it'll give you the prompt to buy more coins, or you can watch an ad for a reward. I don't believe in showing people ads unless they opt in. For gear, there's 4 categories people can buy in. You can change your legs, your body, your head, and then your power-ups. I do want to eventually release a lot of skins for this game, and I think if you're going to be earning coins, you need a way to spend them, otherwise they're kind of just useless in the game, and it doesn't feel like there's much progression at all. And yeah, that's basically what a sitemap is. So when I give this to my developer, he'll know where everything goes, and if I have to add anything in new, I can show him exactly where it needs to go within the app, and it helps visualize the whole entire game. So yeah, this is my whole game mapped out, ready to go. On to the next task. So now we're designing the screen. I guess technically this is considered UX at this point, standing for user experience. Technically this is a wireframe. I'm not adding in any color or assets at this point. I'm just trying to rough out where everything needs to go on the screen. This is good because it can help you make decisions very quick, and you're not worrying about how everything looks. What I'm trying to do here is basically map out my now playing screen. This is the screen where the game will be running. What I'm doing with the colors here, I'm just making a little key, and what I'm trying to do is show all the touch points that are going to be needed within the game. This should help the developer figure out what needs to be touchable and what doesn't. As you can see, there's like a couple of different buttons on the screen at any one time. So here we are at my first attempt at making the screens for my app. I'll give you a quick breakdown of what I'm thinking and what I can see using in this game. Now again, these are just wireframes. I'm trying to rapid prototype these screens, so that's why I'm not using any color. I'll go to the home screen first because I think it's the best one to show all of the data that I'm going to need on screen. I've kept the leaderboard front and center just to show people where they're at. I'm not sure if I like this or not. I might have to iterate on that again. The map, I was thinking of connecting to the player somehow. Maybe there's like a line, or maybe he's wearing a watch that has the map on it. And then you have your cosmetic stuff on the side here, and then obviously a play now button. What I've done is make a little prototype, so maybe we can have a click through and see where all these buttons lead. So we'll start off with the store. Leads you to a page where you can have access to your head, your top, and your bottom. These will be the place where you can choose what cosmetics you want. Now maybe throughout the game you win more cosmetics and you get more, or you can just buy them. I haven't decided on which method I want yet. We hit back, leads you back to the home screen. Clothing, the same again. Maybe I need to change the look of these two screens so people don't get them confused. Or potentially they could be the same screen and you could just buy your cosmetics the same place where you apply them. I'm not sure what the best approach is, so I'll have to iterate on that also. It's probably worth mentioning that I thought this button up the top that shows you how much money you have could be the same button to buy more money. The last button I have is choose power up, and this basically takes you to a page where you can fill up your roster with as many power-ups as you want. I was thinking that maybe you could have maximum 4 power-ups that you could pre-select before your game started, and these would be the only power-ups that would show up while you were playing the game. Then I thought another cool idea would be if you could buy something in the store to expand how many power-ups you could have. So instead of just being able to use 4 throughout the game, you could use 5 or maybe even 6. Okay, if we go back, I think the only other thing is the now playing screen. You have your power-ups along the bottom. These are just representations of coins. And then you've got your pause screen. I haven't done that yet. I probably will do that later. If you go back to the game, it unpauses. And then if you go back to the main screen, it takes you back to the home. But possibly it should take you to the dead screen, which would look something like this. I've also added a chance for you to double your money before the final death screen hits. And it'll tell you your distance, how many coins you've selected, whether or not to play again or go home. I want the experience of this game to be really high quality, and I've seen a couple things here that I'm not happy with, so I'm going to keep iterating on this design and cue the next montage.
I'm doing it! I'm doing it! Yeah! Yeah! In some of these, in some of these. Almost there, and done.
The first major change you'll probably have noticed is this navigation bar, instead of having the buttons spread out across the home screen, I decided to give it a top navigation so that it's easy to click around and find what you're looking for. Another thing you'll notice is I made the buy coins button a lot smaller up in the corner of the screen. This will, like the old one, display how much you have and if you want to add any more. But what I'll do is I'll bring up another prototype. Alright, so we can have a click around. I want this home screen to be a hub, essentially, where it shows you all your need to know information. I figure you'll be able to see what cosmetics you have applied at this point, so you'll be able to see what your play is going to look like in the game. Next, let's head over to the map screen. I think this is just going to be a blown up version of the map, so you can see more and navigate around a bit. Next, the leaderboard screen, just a bigger version of the leaderboard on the home page. You'll be able to see more and scroll down. Sweet, then we go to the gear screen. So this is where you can apply power-ups and change all your cosmetics. Here I've added just a little detail where you could buy, or I could show different items. I've done a dollar amount here. I don't think I'm gonna go with this idea anymore. I think I would just prefer people to pay everything in coins. I think that'll make it a lot simpler, and I don't want to trick anyone in this game. I don't want to be deceitful. I want people to pay when they feel like paying. Nothing worse than games that try to trick you out of your money. No loot boxes in this game either. Haha. Next, the store. Pretty basic at this point. I need to flesh this out on what I want it to look like. And the last screen is just a quick access to coins. I have fleshed out this screen. To meet regulations with the iOS store and the Google Play Store, you need to have a restore purchases button, so that's what this is doing down here. That's really important. You won't get your game into the store without that, so it needs to be here. Another idea I'm playing around with is a follow me on Instagram and follow me on YouTube button. I might get rid of that, but we'll see how development goes and how hard that is to implement. I'm not sure if you'll get rewarded for those two things, or maybe it's just linking back to the channel so you can see how the game was made. Maybe that's interesting to people. And then obviously you can pay real money. These aren't real values at the moment. I just put in random numbers based on what I'd seen in other games. Yeah, I think that's it. So let's have a look at the changes I've made. I haven't changed the navigation structure. I think that's pretty solid. I think the biggest change has come in the gear section. I want it to feel like a phone within a phone, and that you're purchasing from an online store. The shop hasn't changed too much. Again, I think I need to put a bit more effort into how this looks, but I don't have any ideas at this point, and I think that's something that can come later. One other thing that I've changed is the cash section. I've cleaned it up a little bit, and I've added where the rewards sit. You can now watch ads for free cash, and the daily reward will live here also. Now let's have a look at the prototype. I think for this main screen, I'll just have a nice background and some ambient music playing, just so the game's not too intense when you first boot up. If you hit now playing, it's the same now playing screen, and I'll probably flesh this out when it comes to building the game with my developer. Let's say you die. I'm thinking of having some sort of system where you can activate spins and get rewarded. Let's say you finish with your spins, you can click the button and it's the same dead screen. It shows you how long you ran for, how much you collected, and an option to double your coins, to go home, or to restart the game. Right, so scrolling through the menu, the map is essentially the same. I think I'll flesh this out when I come to do the designs next. I think for now, I know what the screen is going to be, so I'll just leave it. The leaderboard, still the same. The gear. So I wanted to show you a little bit more of what I thought the gear could expand into. I thought maybe the phone could expand and there was like a scrollable section. You could scroll down and see a lot more options. You have the player on the left showing what's currently equipped, and all the options on the right that can possibly be equipped. I like to stagger the sizes of these boxes just so that it's not repetitive and can be a little bit more visually exciting. Because this is the drink screen, I think it might be important to show a little video within the game on how the power-ups work, just to give the user a little bit more information about what they're about to equip. Here's a big change. I decided to link the gear with the store, so it's a little bit easier for people to buy items that they can equip immediately. You can hit back, it collapses that screen, we can go back to the now playing screen and play the game, and all those options should be applied. So I think at this point I'm happy with the prototype. When it comes to designing the game, I think things might change again. Once you start building out assets and buttons, you have more ideas and you want to include them. I think the amount of screens that I have will be enough to show my developer what he needs to do. So here we have the user flow. Now, A user flow is essentially the same as a sitemap, except with the actual screens I designed before. For this user flow, I've shown where each button goes. I haven't overloaded the screen because I do have my prototypes that I can give to a developer and they can have a full experience of how this navigation should work. Each one of these icons at the top will lead you to a new screen, and the Now Playing button will lead you to the Now Playing screen. This document shows where everything leads to and will be key in developing my game. The look and feel is next, so let's just jump right onto that. Something I've wanted to do throughout this project is explain my thought process when creating these designs. This was my first attempt at creating a phone within a phone for the gear screen. I did choose the gear screen because I thought that this screen was probably going to be the hardest to make. I liked some of the aspects of this phone design here. I got the idea from 2000s technology, how they used to have see-through cases and you could see a lot of the wiring. I wanted to kind of emulate that in the phone, and I came up with this kind of futuristic, techie vibe. I had ported this design over to my phone, and I wasn't happy with how much real estate I was left with after the navigation bar, the title, and the player size. I had to make the player this size. I had to make him 4 times the size he usually was based on the pixels. Just like the screens I made before, I decided to iterate on the idea and see if I could expand this concept of a see-through phone. Version 2 didn't change very much. I started to add the electronic vibe to the rest of the phone. I actually ended up really liking the way that this looked. I broke up the design of the phone a little bit more down the bottom, and this made me think that I could make the whole phone emulate this sort of style. Version 3, I felt we were getting closer to the mark. As you can see, I have this more techie kind of vibe throughout the rest of the phone. I took away the green at the bottom just to make it a bit more unison, and I thought it would be clear to a user that it's one entire technology and device. I didn't plan on making my game a futuristic game, but I'm kind of just letting the inspiration take me where I feel it needs to go. So version 4 is where I started to look at how much space I actually needed for clickable things on the device. I decided to make things a little bit smaller everywhere, and I changed the colors of the phone a little bit. I really like the pink highlight. I think it's a nice play on a monochromatic screen, and it matches my character and UI quite nicely. I do think though that at this stage there are too many elements on the screen, and that could be a bit confusing for the user. I do want to add some random sort of techie things in there, but I think at this stage it's a bit too much. Also, I don't think there's enough room for the most important things on the screen. I'm going to keep iterating on this and see if I can solve any of these problems. Here is the 5th version. I'm sure I'm missing some that I did in between, but I think this was a milestone where I realized how much screen I needed to have to accomplish using and buying things within the game. As you can see, I've added elements from the gear screen where you can change the look of your character. And obviously, whatever is selected will reflect in the big character over here. This is so you can keep track when you're scrolling what you have selected. Again, I think there are a little bit too many of these techie things in the background, so I kind of want to limit how many of those there are. I should also mention at this stage that the UI up the top here is the correct size for a finger. So I think it's about 40 by 40 pixels, and that should be enough for people to click on comfortably. Any bigger and it'll take over more of the screen, any smaller and it'll be hard to click. So I skipped a couple of versions and I think I'm at about 10 at this stage. I've cleared up a lot of the items and I've changed the way the screens work a little bit more. I've broken up the overall design of the screens because I think it helps frame which each section is about. I changed the navigation at the top to a screen as well, and what I'm thinking at this stage is that the whole game UI will be based on an interstellar phone or a futuristic phone. That whole phone within a phone concept really stuck out to me, and I decided to run with it for the rest of the concept as well. Now you might be asking yourself, why do I have curves in my design? Once I put my original design onto a phone, I saw that it was clipping on the edges, so I decided to curve the screen. Now this is mainly for iPhone. Sometimes you have to actually build the game before you can see what problems you'll encounter. I am suspecting though that this might be a problem, so it's something that I have to keep in mind for the future. As you can see, at this point in the journey, I've included the distance you've run and the coins you've collected. I might need to make these separate elements on the screen and not look like the rest of the UI. I think at this stage it's probably a bit too pink and it gets lost with everything else. The main elements are here, and I even show what you've selected on the character. I imagine this would flash every time you change screen to what part you're changing to. These little arrows here will change the different segments you can select. I think this screen needs a couple more of those futuristic elements on the screen for it to be finished, but I'm pretty happy with the result at this stage. There's a couple tweaks here and there that I need to do, but I think we're heading in the right direction with this concept. Now we've finished every part to my document, I can now hand this off to a developer so they can start building my game. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.